Hello and welcome back to Sprite Guard Plays HyperRogue. We are having a phenomenally successful run. We have picked up our first orb of Yendor. We still have a bunch of dead orbs in our possession, despite losing a few in the alchemy lab. And we had some pretty tense moments, including a run where we were really not sure whether or not we were going to be able to make it to an orb of safety. But we did, and we have all of the most difficult treasures in our possession. We have, we have Power Stones, we have Grimoires, we have Pirate Treasure, and we have Red Gems, and we have Wines. So we still have one fairly challenging gem to collect, and that is the Silver. Now it looks like we've got a crossroads up here with another Orb of Speed and another Dead Orb for us. So this is a pretty good place to come ashore. Now, we do still have the Orb of Fire active for 40 more turns. And so we're going to have to be a little bit careful, but now that we're in the crossroads proper, it's not as problematic. And actually having an Orb of Winter will pretty much negate the negative effects that has. So we have a whole bunch of stuff going for us. I actually want to use this flash effectively. We have 28 more. I really want to go around the edge of the dead cave, and it looks like this is the best we're going to be able to do on short notice. I'm just seeing, yeah, we're going to be able to blast that open. Let's see, how long is our winter going to hold out? 13 turns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's going to be very tight. It's going to be extremely tight, but I believe we can do it as long as nothing goes horribly wrong. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There we go. We managed to do it. An Orb of Time would have really helped us out there. We're actually getting to the end of this Orb of Fire. It looks like fires in the Dead Cave actually dissipate quite quickly. So we're going to be playing pretty carefully. We do not have a way of getting out of this Dead Cave if we go into it until we wait out our Orb of Fire. So I'm just going to do that. So we still have, let's see, 33 Orb of the Mind. I don't see that being extremely useful. It could end up coming in use. It could end up just following us around. You know, if we don't end up using it, I am totally okay with that. I didn't strictly need an Orb of Ether to do that, but we had it. It gave me a little bit of peace of mind. Let's see if we can... Actually, let's see. So here's actually a place where the Orb of the Mind is a little bit useful, just for, again, peace of mind. And now, okay, we have 16 of these ether left, and so we can actually use that to grab that thing. And that puts us at 8, so we are very much closing in on having enough of these to start looking for ice diamonds. And of course we're going to need to kind of double check and make sure that we have not forgotten any gems, and it's very likely that I have. So let's see, that looks like, no, we would need something to open up this cave if we wanted to get... well, here comes an earth elemental, and if we kill it... we're not going to be able to kill it at the right place. That's unfortunate. Yeah, that's too bad. Well, it happens. It's not something I think worth stressing over. We are getting quite a lot of combat, and I want to be careful because of that. And the Orb of Speed, unfortunately, is not really lining up with any of the combat. Okay, I see a silver that we can pick up. Now, my tendency is to be really conservative around the Dead Cave, because I have just run into so much trouble, and so I think that instead of going for that silver, even though I think it's entirely reachable, Instead, what I'm going to do is just keep circling around in the hope that I will find some orbs that will help me out. And instead what I'm finding is a whole bunch of red trolls that all want to get up in my business, and so it looks like we've got that dealt with. I've got one of those entrances kind of plugged up. Now what do we have here? We have an Orb of Time, an Orb of Yen, and 2 Orbs of Yendor. So it's worthwhile to us, I think, to take a look at those. And it looks like that one is in the Caribbean, which is not going to be really feasible for us. So let's see where this other one is. And that one's in the desert, which again isn't really very useful. We don't have a lot of ways of getting stuff out of the desert. So I believe, yeah, that's an Orb of the Dragon. The Orb of Time will preserve the Orb of the Dragon so that we can carry it around with it. It's possible that we can find a use for it. No, we can't throw fire onto rocks, so it may not actually end up being very useful to us, even over the course. I don't know if you could hear that. It's actually 4th of July as I'm recording this. And I am not at the festivities. I was at the festivities for a good portion of today. Went to some good old family friends and had a really good time. Orb of Teleport is good if we can find something that we can get to, but we're worried about being able to get back. And so something like what we had earlier is exactly the sort of thing that works very well. And because it is a single-use orb, our Orb of Time is going to stretch out how long we can have that. So here's a situation actually we cannot get into because this seep is going to block us off. And there's kind of a risk that we can take. Now let's see. Because we have the Orb of Speed, actually, we can approach this seep and kill it. And our Orb of Time is running out, but we still have plenty of teleport, so we can get out of there. And that went remarkably smoothly. So we have 241 gems. Basically, that means we have gems from 24 different lands, so I was wrong about there being 20 lands. And then we have 1 extra gem, and that's 1 extra wine. And I'm just checking to make sure that I haven't gone massively over in anything. So I'm really trying to think, and I want to kind of scan past. We have Power Stones. We have, let's see, do we have Fern Flowers? Yes, we do. Do we have Emeralds? Yes, we do. Okay. I think we are at the point where we are going to want to find our way to the Icy Land. Now, one thing I kind of want to do as an experiment is throw some fire onto the emerald mine and see. So that actually has the same digging effect that placing items does, which I think is pretty cool. Now we can use this Orb of Invisibility to kind of sneak past some of those guys. And we will be just keeping an eye out for an Icy Land. We also are wanting to kind of keep our eye out for an opportunity to use Camelot. And so what that is going to require is probably about 60 dead orbs. I would even maybe like to have more than that. And so I'm just going to kind of be going around the world gathering up dead orbs as we look for the things that we need. Now I see a Yeti over here, and we can, let's see, now I actually, because I threw fire there when I was intending to do well, I picked up an Orb of Earth, so that's why I was not able to do a Mental Blast. I thought it was an Orb of the Mind that I had picked up. So because we saw a Yeti over here, I kind of want to look around, and there is our Icy Land. So we are just going to go around the edge of it. We're going to collect dead orbs as we see them. I actually saw, I think, an orb of the dragon over here that could end up being useful. I have a few times had the problem that I would get a rock snake chasing after me outside of the Red Rock Valley, and so the orb of the dragon is kind of some good insurance to have, even though I sometimes mistakenly put it places that I don't mean to. So here's our first orb of Yendor that we're going to check. It is in the Living Cave. I would love to kind of do an experimental search where we go through the Living Cave kind of using fire. Let's go into this kind of not expecting much, because really at the first sign of trouble I am going to give up. And I think that right here is going to be that, yeah, this troll here is just, it's too much trouble. So we're not going to go after that, but we're going to head, let's see, another orb of earth, which is not extraordinarily useful. Another orb of teleport. We're getting some more orbs of Yendor for us to check out. That was an orb of time, which is going to preserve our orb of teleport for us. And that may end up being useful. So we can try to head after this this key, and we're going to have to remember that there's an ivy that we need to deal with when we get to the very end, because that ivy is going to be pretty long, and we're going to need to pick up and reposition dead orbs. And that's going into the Red Rock Valley, and we don't have what I would need to have a really successful run in the Red Rock Valley. Now, I noticed right there that if I could stay in one place, I would be able to kill that rock snake because my mirage would be there. Or I wasn't entirely sure that that would work, because I thought maybe the snake would just kill the mirage, but no, they have to keep moving. They can't take a turn to kill, and so I was able to kill that active ivy and kill the rock snake at the same time, which I thought was kind of cool. But we've gotten pushed pretty far off course, and so I want to get back on course, get back to going along the edge of the icy land, and I'm going to use my orb of teleport at this point just because I was a little bit stuck and kind of didn't want to. That was probably actually a very lazy way to use the orb of teleport, and it may end up costing me because we're getting a lot of hostility in the crossroads. We're actually getting a lot of monsters coming from the icy land, even though we have not collected any ice diamonds yet. And I want to just make sure that we have necromancer totems. We do. We have phoenix feathers, statues of Cthulhu. So yeah, nothing's jumping out to me as missing. And I'm becoming gradually more and more confident as we go past more and more different places. I'm kind of becoming more and more certain that we are in fact ready to take on the Hyperstone challenge. And so the goal then is going to be to get 10 Hyperstones, and then once that is done, we will be able to... Let me stop, because I had something in mind that I was going to say. I had a pretty coherent plan, and it just kind of leapt out of my brain as I was saying it. So we're going to get 10 or so Hyperstones. We might aim for... We've gotten the 25 Hyperstone achievement, so that's not as tempting as it might be. We could try and go for 50, though that is very difficult. The other thing that I want to do is go for a Grail, because that would be a kind of a triple crown victory for us. We would get all 3 victory conditions at once. That would be really cool. That would be... I have been working on routing a 100% speed run. And what I've kind of been realizing is that in order to get 100% at all, what I'm going to need to do is really just play it kind of slow and normal, hope that RNG works out for me, and just not take any risks. So this is the Orb of Space that we've actually got available to us now, which is one of the most interesting orbs, and I'm not sure that I've covered it. It actually, the way that it works is it will let us pick up a treasure as long as we have enough energy to make up the square of the distance. So like this ice diamond over here, 1, 2... I don't actually want to demonstrate with an ice diamond. I want to stay clean just because of the effect that that will have. So let's grab this Orb of Invisibility. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps away. So that will use 25 charges. And we can pick it up from really far away. And I really like that, and I like that it uses kind of this really mathematical formula that actually makes a lot of sense. Like, things kind of happening by the square of their distance actually are really common. I'm invisible, that's why this hedgehog warrior is not coming after me. Let's see. Need to kind of stop a little bit. I'm getting caught up in things. So we have an Orb of the Dragon, an Orb of Thorns. I don't see a huge amount of value in either of those. But we're just going to continue on our way. So it is actually a little bit unusual here, though, because usually where you see square of distance things is things like field effects, where you have like an inverse square law, because basically the area that is being affected is proportional to the square of the distance. Now in HyperRogue, things aren't proportional to the square of distance usually. They are proportional to the exponent of distance. And to the degree even that I saw one video where it was a number file video where they talked about measuring area in units of e to the meters, which took me a while to figure out what that really looked like. E, of course, being the root of the logarithm. I wonder if we can... we can move an Orb of Yendor to us with the Orb of Space, but we cannot actually open it. And we actually, this is, that ended up being very fortuitous, because that is going to have its key in the right place for us. So let us make our way into the Icy Land, and we will have an Orb of the Dragon with us, because I decided to pick that up and be lazy. I love the Orb of Space. I feel so wonderfully lazy using it. Now, we may actually want to play it safe, and so one thing we can actually do that's actually very valuable is we can use the Orb of the Dragon to melt through some walls. But what I think we want to do actually is play it a little bit safe. I know that I've never had difficulty finding my way back to... that has actually created a problem for us, because that wolf cannot now leave its pen, and so we were actually movement restricted for a while there. So we're going to want to... These are going to really gather wolves, and I'm a little bit worried about that, but we're doing okay. I cannot see my dead orb, and we've created a great big blotch of heat now. There it is. Okay. So we're probably going to want to leave a dead orb here. And I think because we're playing around with the Orb of the Dragon, it's actually going to end up being wiser to just use our dead orbs fairly liberally. And so that is what I'm going to do, and we will just make our way. Let's see, this looks like something that we may end up needing to melt through. So that is, I'm just going to place, kind of proactively place a fire over there, and we can leave a dead orb to mark our path, and that will really clear a path for us on the way back as well. And now, because we're running out of dragon power, I'm kind of wanting to see how far I can throw it. And the answer is pretty far. And that will hopefully open some stuff up for us. Let's see, I've lost track of our dead orb again. I'm not being vigilant enough about that. I'm really not being vigilant enough, and we need to be careful, especially because we're going to have a lot of problems that we're running into. It's a lot more crowded than I usually expect it to be. So there's our dead orb, so we're going to want to put one there. And I know that this is all going to be incredibly obvious, but I think it's better not to take risks, and I also recognize that these great big blotches of heat are going to be more difficult to follow than a normal heat trail that we leave, and so I want to kind of respect that right out the gate, really kind of be careful about what effect that's going to have on us. So now we are getting to a point where we are going to need to melt through some walls, and we do not have any more dragon breath left. So our golem here is going to melt through walls, or rather, our golem here is going to guard us while we melt through walls. The golem, I don't actually think the golem emits any heat. Oh my goodness. And it's going to be very valuable to have this golem here, as we kind of have to stand for quite a while to get through some of these walls. But it seems like the monsters have kind of we're having a bit of a calm. We're not having a lot of monsters attacking us, but I do see a Yeti coming up. We're going to have to deal with that. And our golem was not in the right place to save us from it, but we were not being threatened from a lot of different angles. And kind of once again, I'm being overcautious by melting through this wall, but I think that having a really clear path back is going to make things a lot easier. And when I have to just place an orb, I may as well stand there a little while. And I could even click probably a bit faster, but as I've mentioned kind of earlier on in this session, now session is becoming not even the right word, because I have gone away and come back and picked this game up again, so I'm really still not quite sure what I should be calling this series. I guess within this within this run is something that I can fairly safely say. And now, of course, I've forgotten what I've said. Oh, so there's something that I have said before in this run, and that is that we're going to take things very cautiously, really play like our victory counts. And we may actually end up having to abandon this one, because we have a demon shark coming. And so I'm actually going to stand here, and our golem is actually going to help us out, and I'm going to lure the demon shark over this way. And unfortunately, it's not chasing after us. They're all gathered up right at the edge here, and they're not coming after us. And so that's going to make it virtually impossible to cross the Cocytus, because these demon sharks end up generating so much heat. So the only thing I can really hope for is that we can get to this Orb of Winter. but I'm going to really need to read out the tactics there because I may have actually already made it impossible. So we're going to move down, the Yeti is going to move up to us, and the sharks are going to move up to 2 spaces away from us. And the demon shark's actually penned in a little bit. And so what we can do is... the floor is melting away, and we had to switch places with the golem, which actually caused the golem to fall in the lake. So that ended up not working. We are very close to the key, but unless we find an orb of winter in the icy land, we are not going to be able to get into the Cocytus. And so that's something that it may actually be worthwhile to look for, but we're not going to find one in the icy land unless we pick up 10 ice diamonds. So we're just going to have to call this a failure, unfortunately. That's really too bad. But we can make our way back along our chain of dead orbs. We can gather them all back up, and we can head back, disappointed, but not defeated, and just kind of go back, regroup, try it again, because that is really what this game is so much about, is there is so much just, you know, say, oh well, go back, try it again. So that's what we're going to do. We're not going to have an Orb of Dragon, so we're probably not going to do things quite as strangely as we did them, and probably going to play things a bit more by the book. May not need to use dead orbs. Let's see. Took me a while to find that one. It may be time to pick up some ice diamonds. I picked up one there. I don't think picking up one is going to cause a lot of trouble, but it may have been a mistake. But I think that because we are being attacked by a lot of monsters, my strategy of keeping totally pure is not actually going to be as important as I thought. And I have gotten, I believe I have actually gotten the Orb of Yendor out of the icy land when I did have one ice diamond. I ended up, I think in a speed run even, managing to make that work. So what I'm thinking now is that I don't remember which direction we were going. And so I think it may be actually best to cross over here and just go over to a different icy land that I know we've never been to. And you may, of course, now be screaming at your monitor that we have. I don't know. I wouldn't have a really good way of remembering or reminding myself, so maybe we should have like a protocol, like break all of the mirrors that we pass along the way. And we can certainly put our Orb of the Mind to some clever use if this... No, we couldn't actually do it. I was thinking we could get that Vine Beast to kind of block stuff off, but it corralled stuff, which was useful enough. And we can use a Mental Blast, actually, to get rid of that ivy. That may actually be a good way in general to deal with the ivies. And that's kind of contingent on us getting Orbs of the Mind relatively frequently, which is not at all guaranteed. So now there's kind of the question of, do we kind of soldier on within this video? Or do we kind of say, okay, well, this portion of the episode was not really successful. We kind of took some licks, and we will continue to tick in the future. So I am actually going to check the time, and we have been going for about half an hour, so that is what I'm going to say, is we're going to look for an Orb of Safety. And we are going to kind of continue around the edge of the icy land, picking stuff up, breaking mirrors to kind of give us an idea of where we've been before, Let's see, Orb of Speed, Orb of Dragon, not especially useful, but yeah, if we come across any Ivies, it may be useful to have the Orb of the Dragon. I don't really know. Let's see, what's that? Orb of Space, Orb of Shielding, Orb of Storms. Not a lot. Not seeing a whole lot that is going to help us out. Orb of Thorns. Really, all we're looking for at this point is an Orb of Safety. And we do have a bit of mind power left. Let's see, Space, Earth, not all that useful. Although, we could have some fun little shenanigans where we pick up the Orb of Safety from all... Oh my goodness! That crashed the game. Well, I didn't want it to end there, but that is kind of a wonderful place for it to end. That is kind of, I mean, this, you know, these runs are usually supposed to end in victory or failure or defeat. We had a victory, we got an Orb of Yendor, we got a bit cheeky, and then we crashed the game. That is kind of, I am just grinning now. I love it when that kind of stuff happens in games. So, I hope you enjoyed it too. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.